Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call to order this PVUS committee meeting for October 10th. Begins the agenda. None was presented. Director Mack, seconded by Director Ramsden. Any opposed? Motion carries. We don't have a closed or advisory report, so we'll go right into our delegation from Sea to Sky Community Services. Better at Home. Trying to set the table.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
My pleasure. Oh, let's go right here in the middle. Does my 5 minutes start when I get up or when
First off, we got
I? Because I just need to talk to them fast speed to fit in all the good things I have to say. So thank you for having me. I'm Tara Tagan, and I am the community coordinator for the Better at Home program at Sea to Sky Community Services. And I'm really happy to be able to come in today to share the joy that the Pemberton and District Initiative Fund was able to provide to our community through the funding. So next slide, please. You can see some joy on the screen right there. We had an application that was split between two initiatives. We had the Lunch and Learns for seniors and Food Skills for families with the uniting theme of food and community. Next slide, please. Food Skills for Families is a 6-week program that is funded by the BC Centre for Disease Control. And we were able to put on one session for a group of new parents and kiddos, babies, under the HPOP Healthy Pregnancy Outreach Program, and one with the 65 plus crowd. And those guys loved it so much, they would have liked to continue the programming indefinitely if we were able to do that. Next slide, please. We weren't, but we were able to do deliver 17 different lunch and learn sessions. So that was a good second. The majority of the portion of our funds that were allotted to this program were spent on delicious food. And so sometimes it was the food that brought out the people and sometimes the topics. Next slide, please. The big circle there is an image from the Movement Matters and Social Matters program that has wonderfully been able to be continued through the Village of Pemberton, which was our partner when we first fired up this program in Pemberton. And the second slide is a picture from one of our events that we did with the RCMP, which was a scam and fraud awareness. Next slide. The funds that you provided to us helped to reduce social isolation, introduce new skills and information. We were able to help facilitate creating new friendships and sharing meals, which I think all of those things increase the health and wellness of our community. Next slide, please. I received a lot of positive feedback about what we did, but it would not have been possible without the funding that was provided here. We have funds from the United Way that work, that support the Better at Home program, but none of that is earmarked towards this type of programming. And so we were able to reach a lot more people. We tried to always extend the offerings to the greater community rather than just the clients that are registered under the Better at Home program. Next slide, please. There's quite a few samples of the posters and invitations that we would send out to the community here in town. We sometimes posted them on the bulletin board, we put them in the mail, we sent them out digitally. And so this is an example of some. Next slide.
It's a games and fraud. I like that title.
We always try to draw in the people because sometimes maybe it's not something that would interest you. Some of our events we needed registration for. The Food Skills was one of those programs. I often asked for an RSVP, but it wasn't required. So we always tried to plan to feed enough people and have enough seats for anyone that showed up with word of mouth or decided at the last minute that they were feeling up for traveling that day. Next slide. Not every topic appealed to every person, but usually the food did. And was often a draw for people to come, and that was fine. If somebody wanted to come for a portion and then leave, that's also been totally welcome. Next slide, please. This is a picture that I just caught at the very end of an event. We teamed up the food skills crew that came and did the cooking. We had them cook a nice big pot of soup from all local ingredients, and then we invited the greater community to come and enjoy the soup and have a presentation from Deb Esseltine with regards to the Grow It Forward garden. So at the end, I was like, oh no, I need to take a photo of everyone. So that's what we got there. Next slide, please. We get a lot of great feedback, and often it warms my heart and wets my eyes. And if you, the next couple of slides, if you don't mind changing, show us a couple of the emails that we've received. One here is from the pancake breakfast, which was a lunch and learn that we did at the Lions Villas. And a couple are from food skills classes, and the other is from the Movement Matters, Social Matters group. Next slide. And really great email from the Movement Matters group as well that kind of summarizes most of the attendees' experience. I think they really felt like this is a big plus in the community. It's based on the dementia group that Alzheimer's BC puts on. And I'm so pleased that it's been able to be continued through funds with the village. We are only supporting it in volunteer mode at this point. Next slide, please. And just another token of appreciation from some of the attendees that have come out. So it's just made such a huge difference, I think, in people's health and well-being in the community. And I'm just so grateful that we were able to do that. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'll open it to the table for any questions or comments.
Just a comment is just reading through this presentation, it's thank you for all of the work you've done. This seems to be very valuable to the community, and even just reading that last email that you had up there is just kind of seems to highlight the work that you guys do. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been pretty great.
Thanks, and grateful for you guys, the whole Sea to Sky Community Services. You provide incredible services here, and just a small list of what you gave us today is amazing. And we're also grateful to hear just that feedback and know that we had a tiny little piece to play and contribute in that. That feels good for us to hear and see that. So thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on the 6th consent agenda. Would anybody like to bring anything out? Move consent agenda. Dr. Max, second by Dr. Ramsden. Any opposed? Motion carries. Takes us right to 8.1. SRD CAO verbal update. Ms. Paul.
It's no really update to share today, just that it's nice to see everyone after a long break. And looking forward to a year ahead of the best conversations and projects.
Awesome, thank you. Has been a while. Ms. Tracy, anything from the CAO's office, the Village of Pemberton?
Sure. I just wanted to note that we had a recreation transfer meeting that happened back in September. And just wanted to say that I think our collaboration is going really well in this process, and we look forward to sharing more as we get more of the work completed.
Awesome, thank you. Do we need a receipt on any of that? No. It's not. Okay. So we'll go to 8.3, which is the 2024 Q2 financials. Ms. LaFrance is joining us.
Good question.
I don't have Colin or Suzanne in the meeting. If you follow up that one.
I can go
I'd like
ahead.
to move to 8.4.
Sure.
Oh, there's Colin.
Oh, there he is.
Presenting.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. Can you hear us okay? We're on 8.3, the Q2 financials, whenever you're set up and ready to go.
Yep, sounds good. I can hear you. This is the second quarter financials for the PVUS services. These financials cover January to June 2024. A majority of these services just offer a simple contribution to the VOP for management, but those that don't are pacing to be on or below budget. I'll open it up for any questions that anyone may have.
Anything on quarter two?
Oh, I'm fine, thanks.
I'll get a motion received then, please. Director Mack, second by Director Kennett. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks for joining us, Colin.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
We're on 8.4, information report from Recreation regarding the Nature Play Park and the DOP. Hello, Christine.
Hi, everyone. Hope you're having a lovely afternoon. So.
Is it finished?
Any drive by? You didn't see it?
This report is an update from the July 9th Village of Pemberton council meeting, and where based on our shared service, they have made the recommendation to PVUS to recommend that PVUS accept the Tom Barrett landscape design and the progressive approach to updating the green space at the Pemberton and District Community Center based on that. As well, at the same time, I was directed to start looking at funding considerations, and in order to look at funding considerations, I needed to have some construction drawings from the landscape architect, which I did not receive before this report was due. So I have not had an opportunity to look at the actual expense of what this will cost to phase out the construction. However, I have received those drawings, so I will be able to move forward with getting quotes, hopefully here in Q4. So that is the most updated information on this. And it is about asking PVUS to support this concept for the long-term first phase relocation of the nature play space at the green space at the community center. Look at me, I'm like.
Thank you. So if that would, if you have those drawings, would that align with budget in that we'll be able to get some numbers and potentially assign some budget to it for this?
That's ultimately the expectation that I have put on myself, for sure. Yeah.
Questions from the committee? Go ahead.
My question, like that on the agenda, there was two separate drawings from the input that we all had at the meeting back in whenever that meeting was. It seems so long ago, but
It does feel like a lot.
so, and then there was other drawings from the boards that we worked on. So is there a drawing of a specific of the two that we were showing on the agenda? Is a drawing, the professional, the end drawing, one of them?
No, not these ones. These are just concept drawings.
Okay.
So I needed official construction drawings in order
Right.
to quote. However, what this is, so page, look at me, I'm upside down. Page 50 and 51. So page 50, the drawing, that one includes, if you notice, more detail along the outside, like the east side of the building along the patio of what they recommend moving forward, and a few additional landscape pieces. Page 51 is just the relocation of the nature play park. So we would be looking at receiving, I'll be looking at getting quoting for page 50.
Okay,
for all of it. And ideally, in the budget process, what it would happen would be, this would be what phase one looks like from an expense perspective with the relocation. This would be phase two with the addition of the seating in the ground space and walkway space over in the Pocket Park beside the Orion building. And then phase three, or phase two would be, you know, the addition of the mound in the southeast corner, and then phase three would be the other addition. So it would be phased out, and then through the budget process, we would be able to look at what we're eligible to approve, and I can look at finding other funding sources as well. Does that answer that question, Jan?
okay. So, and the project, we also walked around at the front of the building to see the new access for you know, physically challenged and so on. Would that be done in combined with that, do you think, or not?
A completely separate project.
It's gonna be two separate projects.
And that one is a combined project between the recreation department and the library, as the library has been the receiver of the majority of the
Right.
grant monies for. I am happy to share that the village has also received a significant grant towards that project as well, to the tune of $100,000 from RBC accessibility grant. So the goal with that one, we're just jumping through the development permitting hoops at this point in time, and based on the late time of the season, it's not the time of year to start a construction project that's mainly concrete based. So that project would be something that we'll pull the trigger on, ideally as soon as we can in the spring.
Yeah.
Right? We have funding aligned, and that project is
You've got the funding sort of for that,
the majority of it. We have to look at some final numbers, and any additional requests for that will be coming ideally from the library in their budget process.
In my thought process is it might save money, sort of trying to combine it all, sort of, you know, it might.
Yeah,
If that's a possibility, maybe. I don't know,
I've
just
been
throwing
trying
it out
really
there.
hard to align everything, Director Kennett. Very, very hard trying to align things to save as much money as I possibly can. And we're hoping to utilize aspects of that project to help facilitate some of this project, like pavers. Right? Ironically, pavers themselves, the hard cost on the amount of pavers we would like for some walkway modifications, that in itself is a $25,000 amount just for the pavers, not for the work to actually install the pavers. So we're hoping to at least salvage pavers from that project for this project.
Yeah,
Long term.
well, it seems like you certainly thought about it. I just thought
Yeah,
it might be
If we're lucky,
easier, you might
Yeah.
be able to combine
maybe.
some of the work
Yeah.
together.
As a result of needing to jump through some additional hoops for the development permit, and that project not happening until spring, there is potential. Based on the fact that we're in the budget season right now, and I'm doing everything I can to get some
Right.
concrete numbers in for that approval process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, thank you.
So hopefully, hopefully.
Anyone else? Good. Awesome. Can I get a motion to receive the information report, please?
There is a recommendation within the report, so just wanting to see if the committee is interested in that. The recommendation is outlined in the report is that the PVUS committee support the concept provided for long-term and first phase relocation of the nature playscape structure.
Thanks, Angela. Would like to make that motion? Director Ramsden, seconded by Director Mack. Any discussion? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Burns. 8.5 PDIF. Final report from the Sea Sky Community Services Society 120 funding.
Hey.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Yeah.
Veronica Reed, Project and Program Coordinator with Yes LRD. The next item is just the information report for the final report for Sea Sky Community Services PDIF funding. That is the last requirement of their agreement. If there's any questions that she hasn't answered or not answered in the report.
Any questions?
No.
All right, thank you. Motion received. Max, second by Director Ramsden. Any opposed? Motion carries. Correspondence for action. This is a request for input from the BOP regarding a wildlife safety officer program. Can you speak to that a little bit?
I can, if you'd like.
Yeah,
me to.
maybe just, don't mind.
Yeah, so I believe it was back in February 2024, we received an inquiry. I think driven by some of the issues we'd seen with human and bear interaction here in the valley from the Wildlife Safety Officer Program. And so we'd invited them as a delegation to come to speak to Village Council about their program. And through that, they talked about the opportunities that come through the initiation of that program to be able to provide education and outreach to people around human and wildlife interactions. And through that conversation, then we learned that they do have an opportunity to send an officer up here seasonally. So if we were to be able to support with the amount of $45,000. And so through that, council had a conversation about what that could look like and really where it would make sense. And obviously wildlife does not have boundaries, so not just be within the village of Pemberton, but throughout the valley. And so they directed through this resolution that I send this letter requesting if there was an interest or to have a conversation around the potential of co-funding an officer for the Pemberton Valley.
Thank you. And I mean, it's interesting. I won't lie, there's a small part of me that goes, here comes another service that we're putting on our taxpayers that was and should be, as far as I'm concerned, a provincial service, the wildlife service. On the other hand, it is a really great service, and we've heard at the board from Whistler and Squamish who do this, and we've heard some pretty good things in terms of reducing bear-human conflict and improving coexistence. So a little bit of me is like, another little download from the province, but personally, I think it's a good.
Yeah, the CEO should actually be, that provincial department should be the one that initiates and runs this kind of stuff, but no offense to anybody, but I think that whole department is useless in my mind.
It's under research.
All they want to do is give out tickets for something and anything and everything. They're not out there, in my mind, doing their job. They're another form of law enforcement. Having said all that, have you talked to Lillooet about this? So if we were gonna split it amongst the 3 jurisdictions, are they interested in participating?
I actually would direct that back to the mayor, given the fact that the resolution just speaks to reaching out to the SLRD. So it actually didn't come of the conversation that was at the table, but certainly that would be a
I thought, because this is a few months ago, and I thought of it when I read the report a couple of days ago, that we haven't made that move yet. So that will be the next. If there's support if there's support from the regional district, then we would definitely make that the next step.
So Mike, this would be on next year's budget, because we're not gonna hire that person now. It'll be because the Bears will be going to bed pretty soon.
And they don't,
Hopefully.
if I remember right, their schedule is something like an April through October.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, so that would be, next year.
But it's this year's budget. It would be considering, you're thinking about when your funds top up?
Yeah, exactly.
No, it would be the next, fiscal year.
No, I mean, the way I had it figured out at 45 times, by 3 is 15 each. So for each jurisdiction, and I would be, more than willing to support that with Area C funds of some sort.
Yeah.
So my question is, it's 45,000, that's the wages that are involved, right? Would that person, need to have an office space and,
No, that's the whole cost of them coming up here and providing.
okay, and they'll be working out of Squamish where the current
Most-
wildlife fella works out of?
No, they
Steve,
work out of here too, Jen.
do they?
Not
Oh,
actually.
Yeah,
We've got CEOs.
They would be, the point is what we would bring is they would be physically here during those months.
yeah,
Somebody beside, whether they're driving from Squamish in the morning, I don't know, but they would be here. for-
right, okay.
Up in the
So
valley.
my comment is, but by the time somebody gets out here and there
No, but
isn't,
they will be here. They're not driving, I'm saying they'll drive, spend their workday up here.
oh, I
go
see,
sleep
okay,
and
once a day
But
type
the
of
idea
thing.
is that they're
Yeah.
up here physically in the valley. And it's not, there's different aspects to it too, like there's still, they're not replacing the COs. Like if you've got a bear in your kitchen, this isn't the person you would be calling, we're still calling the conservation
Mhm.
officer. This is educational, this is, this is different levels than responding to a conflict.
Right,
So the COs will still do that.
just, I'm wondering if the village has any numbers of wildlife encounters within the jurisdiction.
No, I don't.
If there's any numbers at all, or phone calls, how many people have phoned in and,
Well, the CEOs definitely have that.
yeah.
And same with the RCMP, because the people I've talked to that phone me to complain about the bears all the time. That's the first thing I say. If you contacted CEOs, the RCMP, yes, we have. And some of them have contacted them numerous times and they get very little sort of satisfaction out of their conversations, right? But the fact is they are registered, because once you phone those folks,
Yeah.
there's a registration of it.
And I think the point of this is more that this service, they'd be up here putting in place more preventative measures so that whoever's calling you for whatever issues are, they can come up and work with them on the property, whatever, and then see if there's ways they can reduce the conflict before it happens.
No, I think having somebody dedicated to the issue or issues, even potential ones, is a good thing at this.
So would you like to make a motion that, is there a motion on the agenda?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we,
Actually, I'll just go to Director Amsden
I
first.
just have a comment. So my understanding from the presentation that was given to us too is that the conservation officer program there's certain restrictions in terms of resources, et cetera. And that ideally that they would include preventative measures, but it's just not happening. It's not within their scope, not within the resources. So this program is the idea is that it works, I don't know if in conjunction is the right word, but it's more focused on preventative measures. And my understanding, just again, from the bit that I've heard around the table, as well as, following community groups and stuff like that, is that there have been issues, like especially up the valley, like more issues with wildlife, particularly bears. And so the idea is that I like the idea of having somebody who is in this valley dedicated, and with the idea that it's preventative. You're not calling them when when you're having conflict with a bear. It's helping us figure out how to live with wildlife, and potentially, especially with climate change and all that, we maybe see more wildlife interactions. How do we manage that moving forward so that we reduce those conflicts? That's.
Just from personal experience, our company, we have a horseback riding company, and there are lots of bears out where we ride. And we haven't had any bear animal person conflict. Having said that, you can ride around a field and there's 3 or 4 bears, black bears. I'm not talking the grizzlies, because we live mid-valley. But and there hasn't, people understand that. I'm just feeling that this is just sort of another level of, I think a lot of people have had I can see maybe having someone come in and talk about bear conflict, like Steve did up the valley at the beer farmers a year ago. He came up from Squamish and, explained a lot of things to the farmers on what could be done. Some of the farmers got electric fencing to try and keep the bears out and so on, right? I just feel that to have a full-time person here on a I don't know, I just think it's a lot of money for,
I mean, I think there's.
particularly you're layering up the services that are already
Again,
being,
the CEO, and, you know,
You know?
as Director Ramsden pointed out from the presentation that we got, the CEO's office is underwater trying to keep up with just response calls. So they don't have a chance for education, they don't have a chance to go in neighborhoods. And I think you need to remember, there's a lot of people here that haven't been here quite as long as you and I, and therefore don't know how to navigate with the bears, and they're new to living amongst the wildlife, and I think it's helpful, and there's a lot of visitors as well. So I think it's helpful.
Mhm.
So I got Director Ramsden and then Director Mack.
So you guys are for it. I mean, I'm not gonna stand against it or anything, Mike, but I'm just saying, these are my concerns, that it's just another level of when, you know.
But sorry, Lee, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, similar to the point that Director Richmond was saying, is that as somebody who is relatively new to the area, you know, there's a lot of people moving up here who are moving from urban centers, and even like the work that I did previous to coming up here, I worked a lot in the bush, I worked in northern BC, but it's still, even that, it's like living in very close proximity to wildlife, I think is something that is it's very new, and I think new for an increasing part of the population in this area. And so I think that's also bears in mind, as well as, you know, the number of tourists that you see come through here. And if there's, I don't know if there will be any education around that, but I see that as if there is, that would be a big bonus, because the amount of people who are potentially coming here and don't realize that wildlife is in fact wild, and that you do not want to get close to bears, because I've seen in the Yukon and Alaska, when you get people who are not familiar with wildlife and they're going, they don't realize it's not a zoo sometimes. And I think so, just potentially having that education out, not only for locals and people living here, but potentially also for people who are visiting, would be very highly beneficial.
Right, Russell, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, I don't like the idea of layering and layering, but the point is, the CEOs, they're underfunded, they're understaffed. The particular government that we have right now is not funding that whole wildlife management department with any sort of gusto, shall we say. So I think if we can get all three jurisdictions to go in on this, even if we only did it for a 1-year program, see how it works out. But the thing, like when you talk about wildlife, you know, where I live, we have all kinds of wildlife. We have everything walking through our yard. The biggest concern that I have is the influx of grizzly bears, and it's not. I don't think climate change has got anything to do with it. There's just a lot of bears, and they're reproducing more and more every year, so we get more and more bears. We have a big grizzly back up at our place, and this guy that I know of has killed 3 black bears in the last month and a half. So that's what he's bulking up on to go to bed, right? Now, the same thing has happened up the valley here with the big boar up here. So our black bear population is kind of being controlled by the grizzlies. And the people that have phoned me and complained are having grizzly bears on their porch and stuff like that, right? That's a little too close to home. Somebody walks out the door and gets in the way. My fear is somebody's going to get seriously hurt or worse. So to have somebody here, you know, on an 8-hour basis that can drive up and just talk to people on a daily basis. Have you sighted bears? Where are they? Keep track of them and educate people. I think that's a real bonus. I don't worry so much about black bears and stuff like that. It's just the grizzlies are they're the apex predator and the top of the food chain, so.
All right, now that we got our
Keep an eye on
wildlife
it.
lesson, I'm gonna recommend that we make a motion that includes having them come and report at the end of next year to say what their activities look like. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you through the chair. I just want to make note that the board of the SLRD did invest in a wildlife coordinator. And what we can do is look at how that will complement each other and not work against, but with in tandem. Because that is subsidized already by the board and coordinator by the SLRD. For 2024. Likely go into 20.
So, yeah, maybe have a motion. And
I
is
just
that still-
have one more thing to add to this
This was
whole
supposed to be-
conflict, not the bear conflict, but number one, people are driving their kids down their driveway so their 6-year-old can get on the bus. That's this how dangerous it is up the valley with the grizzlies. Right? So, and that's not fiction, that's fact. And number two, one of the girls that used to work for us, she's working on a university degree in wildlife management. And she's been working up the valley with the farmers, and they're trying to come up with some solutions, right? So she's about 4th year from the University of Prince George. She's working out of, and she lives here in the valley. And yeah, so there's lots of people working on the problem and are aware of what the problem is, right? So, I mean, you know.
Again, understanding you have a bit of, not skepticism, but you want to know that.
I'm just skeptic about it.
Understanding
that's
that you want to see the value in it, what I'm suggesting is that if Director Mack wants to support it for this year, what we can do is request that they come and report back to us at the end of the season next year, so we can sort of gauge what value they brought.
all. Right,
So
Yeah.
let's do it for a year is my proposal, if leave what's in and have them come at the end of next season, and then we could sort of understand.
yeah. So the credentials of the person would have to be taken into account and their experience and all of that, right?
I would hope that they hire.
Yeah, so who would be actually doing the
This is
physical
BC.
hiring and
This is outside us, we're going to the, what's the service called?
It's the Wildlife Safety Officer Program, so
Okay.
the officers are already in place.
right,
They would just send an officer to work in this
In
community.
this area, and we would cover the cost.
yeah.
Okay, I'll make that motion that we do that.
Yeah, so is it a recommendation to the board, or how does that have to be worded for the funding?
Got a number.
Oh, I guess also as a consideration, do you want that to make that contingent on
Yeah.
support from Woo-Wee-Watt-Mission as well?
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
Through the chair, it would depend on the type of funds that the Area C director is wanting to allocate to the program. But for this particular resolution, because it is contingent on the other partnership, we can keep that quite vague in the resolution. Yeah.
So yeah, motion to support, as Ms. Tracy said, contingent on the Watts participation.
Yeah.
Moved by Director Mack, seconded by Director Ramsden. Any opposed? Motion carries. Decision on late business. We have no late business. Director's notice of motion. Motion to adjourn. Mack, seconded by Director Ramsden. Any opposed?